Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Circle of Knowledge podcast. We're so glad you're here. If you're listening to us live, welcome. If you're listening to this recording, which congratulations, we love you all. And thank you for the feedback. This has been an incredible opportunity to learn, grow, learn the ropes of podcasting. It seems like every day I find out that somebody else has started a new podcast, and I love it. I love that there's so much podcasting information out there. We literally just gave a training to authors, to many of those who work with us recently. And it was really cool to see how podcasting was one of the most popular ways to get your book out there or to promote yourself as an author. And, I'm grateful for that. And today is no different opportunity. I get to interview an incredible author, an individual who I have recently gotten to get to know through the amazing coordination and relationships through Eric, Mr. Awesome Swanson, and the Habitude Warrior team. And I've been interviewed, I've connected, I've spoken, and I've just gotten an opportunity to learn so much from this individual. And it is an honor because I have felt so much genuine connection in our message and who we are as human beings and who and what we represent when we teach and speak to people. He's a great motivational speaker, and I can't wait to bring him up on stage and read his bio in just a second. But just a few quick announcements before I bring on our guest today. Obviously, we want to hear from you. If you'll send us an email to team@mychampionscircle.com, you will receive a reply back from our team, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you have questions, if there's certain authors or types of books or anything you want to have us review on the show, please let us know. Also, our main sponsor is this little guy up here in the corner, the 4 Rings of Virtue. No, just kidding. I've actually never said that before. But the 4 Rings of Virtue stand for Champion Circle, the networking association that I founded and started in Salt Lake City, Utah, currently expanding and growing chapters all across the Intermountain West and anywhere else. If you have questions or want to learn more about that, we have online training, we have in-person networking sessions, and we also do organized local fun networking events like Nerf battles, bowling, go-karting, miniature golf, whatever you can think of. If you're in a wintry state, then most of the activities are indoors for about 6 months, and then we have normal activities the rest of the year. But please inquire more. Go to mychampionscircle.com. All of the information will be in the show notes, and you can check us out there. And last but not least, I just wanted to share too, if you would like to learn more about what we do at Habitude Warrior, this is a subtle plug for Habitude Warrior, please go to our website, habitudewarrior.com. Or if you'd like to learn more about one of our mastermind groups, you can do that as well, where you can inquire more by going to ridealongguestpass.com, and there you'll be able to learn from the team on how to attend one of our upcoming masterminds. We talk so heavily about the importance of these resources, and right off the bat, I wanted to take the first 5 minutes of this podcast episode to remind you of the great resources that you have available to you at your listening power. All right, guys, before I bring on our guest, I want to read his bio, but I'm really, really excited. I mean, like really excited to introduce to you guys somebody who I've recently come to build a relationship with, a friendship with, and I'm so honored to be able to interview him and highlight him on our show. And as always, I take this responsibility so selfishly, as I get to be the front row student to learning from our guest speakers on this podcast by vicariously learning through what questions I anticipate you'll ask. And this is going to be a really, really fun conversation. I'm really excited to bring up on stage a speaker, a coach, and an awesome, awkwardly awesome individual. His name is Jason Freeman. Let me read his bio. Whenever Jason Freeman speaks to an audience, be it an intimate mastermind in the North County, San Diego, or an assembly of 1,500 high school students in Austin, Minnesota, he is absolutely 100% committed to bringing his speech impediment with him. Audiences see him up on stage, against all odds, living his dream, which helps them see their dreams as closer and more attainable. Jason has a unique walk, a love for country music, a sweet tooth, me too, my friend, a master of the fine arts and poetry, a TEDx talk, and a book he authored called Awkwardly Awesome, Embracing My Imperfect Best. His goal is to speak to millions of people in his lifetime. He hopes to inspire them to see the best in themselves, to take their next step forward, and to persevere towards their dreams, not only for themselves, but for their health, their happiness, and of generations to come. Bringing to the stage our dear friend, Mr. Jason Freeman.
Yay! Thanks. That was an amazing introduction, John. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
And good thing it was recorded. I'll send that to you. Feel free to use that for your next highlight video.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Well, Jason, again, I'm honored to have you on our show. And this is the Circle of Knowledge podcast. We're a humble little podcast. We interview anywhere from motivational speakers to celebrities to Olympic athletes, but everyone's story and message always has some sort of outcome, and that is something that you can walk away with, something that you can learn. And again, I want to share just my gratitude to Eric Swanson, who made this incredible connection. And I know that you had the you and I spoke on your podcast, and I love that experience of sharing my story and relating it to so much. But today's all about you. I can't wait to dig in, help my audience get to know you. But let's talk about the elephant in the room for a second. Are those real glasses? No, I'm just kidding. We know that those are real glasses, but
That's great.
tell
That's great.
tell us a little bit.
Why, yes, they are real glasses, John. They are. Your thumbs up to the glasses.
Oh, but let's talk about your childhood or your life. How did you become the Jason Freeman that you are today? I know that's a huge, broad question, but let's just start there, and we'll kind of banter back and forth and chat a little bit about your life, your story, and your upbringing. But tell us a little bit about how you became who you are today by what you had to go through as you grew up.
Thanks. Really wonderful question. So like most kids, I had a lot of dreams, huge dreams. My dad once wrote a poem about me wanting to be everything, because when adults used to ask me what I wanted to be, I would say I wanted to be everything. And my folks told me I was the best when I was young, so like, I can do this. I have unlimited power. I'm a superhero. But then, John, fourth grade happened, and I started looking around my class. I don't know why I wasn't doing this before, but for some reason, I started comparing myself to the other kids in fourth grade, and that did not go well. John, they spoke normally, and I spoke with this very unusual voice, and they tended to catch basketballs with their hands, and I tended to catch basketballs with just about every other part of my body, which is painful, by the way. It's not how basketball is designed. So with that experience as a very young person, I started to give up on that childhood fire, those childhood dreams, and my life became more and more limited. And I thought I could do less and less.
Mm.
And and I would suspect this often happens for people that they come to their careers or their relationships with big dreams, and slowly the adversity happens or challenges happen. They start looking around and comparing themselves, and slowly those dreams become more and more. They kind of lose sight of them, and instead of dreaming, they try and figure out what they can do to survive,
Mm.
and that can be a very painful process. Very painful.
I absolutely agree. I mean, when you start to have self-awareness and an observational opinion and an eye for the people around you, observation and awareness are all valuable skills as a human being, dating way back to even like the cavemen and Neanderthals. Like, if you weren't self-aware, you died because you were either being hunted or whatever. So it's natural. It's the natural law of nature and God's will for us to have that observation. But when you start to recognize the differences and the similarities between your peers, especially in fourth grade, and all of a sudden you recognize that, wait, there's not very many similarities. In fact, I'm way different than these people, and I'm probably sticking out. Like, probably people are noticing this, and you start to develop that stuff. But I mean, that's definitely something that you probably work on for not just fourth grade. You probably work on that for the rest of your life. And
Yeah, exactly.
tell me a little bit more about the journey once you started to recognize what it is that you were dealing with, and we'll get into superpowers and stuff like that. But I definitely want to hear about, you know, how did the fourth grade year old Jason Freeman say, wow, I guess I'm really different than everyone else, turn into motivational speaker, TEDx speaker, and turn things around for himself?
John, I wish I could tell you like a simple answer, like, oh, I was feeling really bad in fourth grade, but then fifth grade happened and I had an awakening, and I said I was in fifth grade, and I'm like, ah! but but sometimes when we're so focused on a certain way of perceiving life, we keep going down that road, and even though good things were happening in later grade school, like in sixth grade, I participated. I went out for the basketball team, which was very good to participate. Very, very underwhelming performance. I didn't score a point all season.
Hmm.
But it was good to participate. I mean, we don't have to be great at something to love it and do it. But
Hmm.
but but in seventh grade, I just got so anxious by being the way I was and having acne, growing fields of acne on my face, and just so uncomfortable being me, that I completely lost sight of not only some of the dreams I had as a young person, but pretty much all of them. And I attempted to take my own life.
Hmm.
But luckily, in that moment, I learned that the world is so much bigger than just my feelings of misery or whatever, and some voice within me, I still don't know what it was. Probably God, definitely some miracles. A kiddo, that I know you're hurting, but this is not a way, not the way, and I call for help. And in that moment, even though I didn't have the words for it at the time, the idea of doing an imperfect best was born. And that really started propelling me, because before I had been thinking my life was absolutely awful if it wasn't some version of perfection that I had in my mind. But with the idea of going for my best, but also knowing imperfections, mistakes, uncertainties are just part of life, I was able to start appreciating my life, to start remembering my dreams, to start taking risks, to start participating more and more in what I actually wanted to do, instead of focusing on what I perceived that I couldn't do, or focusing on how unfair it was that life had dealt me the cards it did.
Oh man, there's so many incredible nuggets there that I want to share, and I mean, obviously, responding to your story. I'm so glad you're here, Jason, and I'm so glad that whatever attempts you made didn't succeed, and I'm grateful because consistently every time I see a post, uh, um, I see a graphic on social media, anytime I see Jason Freeman's face, every time
Mm,
I see it, a smile comes to my face, and I
mm,
see it, and I'm like, I know that guy, and
mm,
he's the kind of person who leads with a life of laughter and smile and fun. I want to repeat something you just said. You said that you don't have to be good at something you love doing. And
mm.
oh man, I love that. I come from the background of an athlete who was training for the Olympics at one point, and I know that there's so much that goes into doing what you love. And I guess I was always taught that, if you love it, you should double down on it, like really,
Mm,
really embrace what you have. But I love this perspective more, that you don't have to be good at it to love it. In fact, that's the brighter and better side of life, is loving what you do, despite whether you're, the Olympic gold medalist, or you're the average Joe who does the job. But it doesn't have to be something you're amazing at. It just means it has to be amazing for you. And I love that quote, Jason. That was very, very impactful and powerful. Something you also said was, you really had to start taking risks and doing more and more of what you want to do. And
mm,
I go back to that fourth grader, and then the journey you've had to overcome between then and now. And I think about what you're saying, and I think, wow, how relatable is this for so many people, that in order to start living, you can't live in the box. You've got to start taking risks. You've got to leave. Going back to the caveman theory, is you've got to leave the cave. Otherwise, life's going
nice.
to be just cold, dark, and pointless. And wow, wow. Thank you for saying that. What a powerful principle to learn. Um, you've obviously have found some sort of accomplishment and greatness in what you're doing, given that you're speaking on stages, you've done a TEDx, you've written a book. And so there has to be a moment or a movement in which you say, okay, I'm going to start taking risks. I'm going to leave the I was about to say leave the Shire as like a hobbit, right? You're about to leave the cave, you leave the Shire, leave the comfort of being yourself in your own confidentiality and rather put yourself out there. What was that journey and story like? I know these are broad questions, but I'm here for all your stories.
what you just said, I've never heard it said that way. It's brilliantly. I had to leave myself in my own confidentiality. It's such a great use of confidentiality. We think of it in terms of treating other people's information confidentially, but sometimes, and I was treating myself in my life confidentially, and you know what? People don't get to know you if you treat yourself confidentially, because it's confidential. So what happened? I guess I found something I thought was worth doubling down on. I thought it was worth doubling down on this idea of imperfect best, on the idea that we don't have to be crippled when we set off to do something and things don't go away, or when we don't have to stop when we set off to do something and then suddenly all these challenges we didn't anticipate come into our way. If I let my speech impediment and the quote unquote imperfection of my speech impediment stop me from living my dreams, that Jon, in all likelihood, that will be my whole life, just kind of sitting, waiting, and someday someone will come up with a cure for a speech impediment, and I'll speak normally. Then I can start living my dreams. Then I'll double down. Once everything's perfect, I'll double down on my dreams. But I didn't want to play the odds of that game. I thought that game seemed like a really high likelihood of ending in misery. And so I decided to double down on what I could do now. Like, I have a voice. I want to speak in front of audiences. Why not hold my message and do it and inspire as I am, and bring as much as I can out of myself. Just one more thing. Imperfect best to me isn't about being lazy is part of the human experience, and sometimes we all get lazy, and that's fine. But to me, the concept of imperfect best isn't about laziness. It isn't about settling for the imperfect because we just don't want to do the work of the best. There's plenty of imperfect in life, even when we work hard. There's plenty, and I mean, of course, part of it is sometimes we choose to be lazy, and that's okay. But we can always refocus our energy on going for where we want to go.
Man, oh, Jason, I love this conversation, and what you just shared. It brings up a lot more questions I can't wait to ask you, and it also inspires me. It's so interesting that the one thing that may have been your greatest insecurity, obviously, with how you speak and how you act, or how the impediment affects you, is so interesting, because your ultimate desire was to inspire people and to speak out and to do what you love, and literally to put yourself out there in a space where you literally have to speak with your current voice. You have to not only double down, but you have to live through it every single day, the differences that you have in the world. And so what I hear is, you not only embraced yourself and your love for Jason, but you were willing to put Jason through the ringer. But it didn't become the ringer for you. It became your passion, your joy, and your love. And that in and of itself became you doubling down on your passion, which is seeing people's faces, speaking to audiences, sharing your voice and message, and putting an inspiring message out there to others. That's the first lesson I got from what you just said. The second thing I learned is when you totally, take risks and put yourself out there, you definitely have to work on it. But when you do it with, with your interests, your love, your passion, it becomes part of you. And it's interesting. I have to ask, but I think I already know the answer based on how I'm feeling when you speak. But do you feel like your message influences those who have speech impediments more than those who don't? I know I'm putting you on the spot a lot here.
I guess I don't know the answer to that. It would make sense that my message probably does influence people who have speech impediments more. The next comment is completely not political at all. But when I saw that our current president, when they did those stories about him having a stutter when he was young and having to overcome that, I mean, that really impacted me. I'm like, wow, I've been using my voice to sometimes to say I can't do this or that, and wow, this dude has a stutter, and he's running for president, and it's like, yeah, so it's inspiring when we see someone who's has the same challenges we have, like overcome those challenges, but also I love learning from people with different kinds of challenges. Like one of my good friends, Tim Soren. I never say his last name right. If he's listening, he might wince. But he dealt with leukemia and kept it hidden for a long time, but now has a podcast about cancer and is providing an opportunity for people to be in a book about cancer, and his whole vision is showing up for the journey with cancer, and I'm so inspired by what he's doing, and luckily I've never had cancer, but it's still inspiring, even though it's different from the challenges I've faced in life.
Amazing. What I wanted to share too is, and I think you know this, but yes, your example of our president and the examples of him having a speech impediment growing up is really inspiring. It's such an incredible thing to think about, and know that someone can rise above their own self and still become the president of the United States of America and accomplish so much more. That's very, very powerful. I think when you speak, Jason, you do reach a greater audience. I know that when it comes to like podcasting and social media, there's a huge focus on, read your analytics and focus on your numbers and see where your audience is and learn your demographics, right? And know your perfect avatar. But
and know your niche.
And know your niche. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much, like, there's so many nuances that go into it. But I think that your voice has a greater reach than what numbers are showing. I think you reach more than just, the average individual. I think you reach people with speech impediments, but I think you also reach people who suffer from, ADHD or what's multiple sclerosis or the other one. I can't think of it right now, but I think you reach so many more people with your inspiring words. But at the same time, as a magnitude to that, when somebody hears Jason speak, they see what you've overcome and what you're working towards. And any normal person, or quote, nobody's normal, guys. No one in the world is normal, okay? But any quote unquote normal person will say, wow, that's incredible. And they'll start thinking about their own personal insecurities. They'll be thinking about how they stutter, or that they have stage fright, or that they never been to the gym in their life and they've never lifted a weight. Or maybe it's something about like, I wanted to hike this mountain, but I've never done it because I'm scared to do it. I think you reach so many more people than you think, than meets the eye. Let's just say that. Not that you think, because I think you do, but I think you reach more people than meets the eye, because your message, and when you speak, ears turn. When Jason Freeman opens his mouth, rooms go silent.
When Jason Freeman opens his mouth, ears turn. That's really good. That's really good. It's really good.
They do. And I speak from personal experience. And that to me is why I believe that you reach a greater audience than analytics and social media will tell you, because I think that people are inspired by the differences that you've embraced. When the fourth grade you realized you were different, I think you started to see yourself as the negative different, but now you've embraced the positive difference. And that difference has now impacted so many more people. I want to jump in and talk about, converting this impediment into your superpower. First of all, I guess I could ask the question that you asked me. How can people turn their kryptonite into their superpower, as you've done with your speech impediment? I know this is a huge conversation, and we can banter back and forth more about this more, but just off the cuff, what do you feel is the way that people can turn their kryptonites into their superpower?
But it's such a complex question. Let me start with what you're talking about a bit, about how each of our messages ripples out to affect people we don't even we haven't met. We don't know how the ripples go out. Like your name of your podcast is the Circle of Knowledge podcast, and think of how knowledge has rippled out through the ages to impact our individual lives. Why do I start here? because when we suffer from something we see as a huge challenge, as a kryptonite, as a mountain that's too high to surmount, we think what we sometimes think, or at least I thought, what does it matter if I undertake this? I mean, no one's listening anyway. No one cares. No one will understand. I'm the only one suffering. But John, you know this so well. Our actions not only impact our own quality of life, but they impact the. I mean, we don't know how far they impact. You went to the Philippines on a mission trip years ago. You don't know how far the, you going there is still rippling out to impact and impact and impact and impact. So that's one thing, realizing that attitude and what we do with the challenges in our lives, it just matters. It matters both for ourselves and for others. And the next thing is realizing that there's a path. It's not easy, it's not simple all the time or usually, but there is a path from viewing something as a profound, painful limitation to viewing it as a radiant gift. There's a path, and I'm not trying to trivialize the journey at all by saying that, but there's a path, and then undertaking the path is a journey. It takes work, and most of all, what I've come to rely on more and more and more and more is consistent practice. Just practicing what I want to create in my life as often as I can, daily if possible.
Wow, I love this. I'm really inspired by your words, Jason, and uh, what a great message and inspiration to everyone listening to this, and to anyone who stumbles upon this podcast to recognize that your impact is greater than you realize. I love that, and you eloquently shared that what efforts you make in the process of anything, those have rippling effects beyond what we can see, and that inspires me. It also brings a little sense of gratitude to my heart, knowing that I lived in the Philippines a little over 10 years ago, and an incredible, impactful experience of my life. So thank you for sharing that. Jason, I wanna talk about the book you wrote, um, Awkwardly Awesome: Embracing Your Imperfect Best. Yeah, baby, here, I'm gonna let you full screen that because that thing is beautiful. Check it out. And I love this photo. He's dressed up just how he wants to be. That's his everyday attire.
Okay.
I love it, and I want to talk about it because, first of all, of course, I encourage everyone. I actually ordered my copy too late, so I'm waiting for my copy in the mail right now. But I wanted to be able to share it today. But I'm inspired by your words because, again, where the word perfect is such an interesting word, because perfection is not a status, it's a perception. And when you say embracing your imperfect best, I love that because it's spinning the positive on, look, we're all not perfect. We're all not normal. We all got stuff going on in here, or everywhere. And whatever it might be, how would you say, and I know that this is the reason to read your book and to learn about your story, but what are some things you would share about embracing your imperfect best?
So the first thing is to realize that just because adversity happens, challenges happen, mistake happen, it doesn't mean that a person is living life wrong. It just simply means that they are living life. We breathe, that means we're living. We experience challenges, that means we're living. And then to realize that everything we experience that is maybe not exactly what we have planned in our perfect vision. Everything, all that stuff is stuff we can learn from. It's stuff we can grow from. It's stuff we can tell stories about and help other people. These things we can go to war and battle with all this imperfect stuff and exhaust ourselves by fighting it and thinking it shouldn't be, and or else we can think, wow, this happened. Another teaching tool. What can I learn from that? How can I help others because I've experienced that? Wow, interesting. How will that help me grow? What can I do better next time? Wow, interesting. And that, and so we're still paying attention to the thing that happened. We're not sweeping it under the rug or anything, but we're paying attention in a way that moves us forward instead of stops us. In a way that moves us forward instead of stops us.
I'm writing that one down, paying attention to things that move us forward and not stops us.
In a way that moves us forward instead of stopping us. Because I know full well that I can pay attention to my speech in a way that stops me in my tracks. Or I can pay attention to it in a way I am right now. And this is moving. I'm paying attention to it at this moment in a way that moves me forward. Your excellent questions are bringing things out of me that I've never said. I'm paying attention to who I am in this conversation with you in a way that moves me forward, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm being interviewed by a man who talks normally, who has a wonderful voice. He could be a radio announcer. And who am I? I have a speech impediment. Oh my gosh. So you see how I could use even this to stop me and call up and go back to bed for the day. But instead I'm enjoying this and I want to move forward in this conversation, so that's what I'm doing.
Oh man, I love that. You bring up the principle and aspect of attitude and perspective, and one of the things I think why I am just one of and becoming one of Jason's biggest fans is his ability to not only embrace that but his attitude of choice. And I'm really attracted to learning from and surrounding myself from people who I call are silver lining type people. And silver lining type people are
I
those
love
who
that
have,
term. That's
yeah,
amazing.
those who have the attitude and perspective that there's a lesson in everything. And I love what you said. You got to pay attention to the things in a way that moves you forward. And for me, that's incredible. In my speeches, I've talked about my journey as a young kid who backpacked through the wilderness for the first time at 8 years old, and
That's
and
awesome.
and for me, blisters, pain in the back, pain in the shoulders, sweating, dehydration, all that. Like, you could pay attention to the physical aspects of anything, especially when it hurts. But
Mm.
if you choose to focus or decide to focus on the things that move you forward, you reach your destinations. And, the one thing that moved me forward were my feet. If I just kept moving one step at a time, no matter how fast or how slow, eventually I'll get to where I want to go. And I love what you said, Jason, because again, you can focus on the pain. You can pay attention to those things that can cripple you, debilitate you, bring you down. But what I hear you saying more than just what was said is, when you decide to pay attention to the things that really are going to change your life, the lessons, the silver lining moments, the overall obstacles, the challenges that you get to overcome. In every situation, you get to be your own David who faces his Goliaths. And
Oh, wow. Yeah.
that inspires me. That to me is the decision, the choice, the attitude of positivity. And we all know, being in the personal development space, having a positive mental attitude about everything is one of the best ways to propel yourself forward. So, man, I'm inspired by your words, Jason. This is especially impactful for me.
Your hike at 8 years old is the perfect imperfect best metaphor. Because I would say you want to do both. You want to pay attention to the pain in the back and in your feet and shoulders, because knowing about that stuff helps you take care of your body and helps you modify. Like, maybe you need to change socks, or you don't have so many blisters, or put band-aids on. It helps you adapt to the current conditions. But I would say you can pay attention to that stuff, and like you did, move forward on the hike through the wilderness at the same time. I would say you can do both,
Yeah.
like you did.
Wow. Jason, I never thought of it that way, honestly. I always thought of it very rudimentary and very one-sided, but I never saw it that way before.
Mm.
There's an option, and that there's choices. Wow. Thank you for diving in deeper. I love this. This is what happens when Jason and I get together. We expound on each other's memories and ideas and thoughts and things I never saw or thought before. So I'm very impacted by that. Thank you. Um, by the way, a dear friend of ours and someone who we both probably know from connections, social media, masterminds, Karen Hargreaves, says there are lessons in the pain. And I love that
Oh,
that's what she's
whoa.
thinking and
Oh,
feeling based off of
yes.
this conversation.
Yes. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Well, we're getting close to the top of the hour. I could talk to you for hours, Jason. This is fun and impactful and incredible. But I definitely do want to ask, one more question before we get to, how can people reach you and stuff like that. But I do want to say, like, when I again, and I mean this with pure intent and all sincerity, when I see Jason's name pop up, when I see an email or I see him on social media or watch some of his episodes of his podcast pop up on my feed, a literal smile comes to my face. And that's because I know what you're doing. I know what you are helping people with. I know the more people you connect with, the more relationships you build, the more people you interview, and the more opportunities you get to speak in front of people, you are impacting them. And that brings a smile to my face. And I know that more speaking stages, more coaching, more opportunities to interview and stuff like that are all what you're working on. But I am curious, and again, another open-ended question: what are some of your ultimate goals and what are you working towards? I'll preface before you answer to give you a minute to think is, a number of years ago, I started, rather than telling people who I was and where I came from or what I did or what my accomplishments were, the resume of stuff, I started focusing on telling people what I'm working towards and what my goals were. And the more that I spoke it, whether it was on live television, radio, podcasts, or just one-to-one conversations, the more I started talking about what I was working towards, the faster they came to fruition. And so for someone who cares deeply about Jason Freeman, I want his dreams, his desires, and his goals to come to fruition faster than they are right now. And my goal is to ask you the question, what are you working on? What are you working towards? And what are some of your ultimate goals?
Thanks for this great question, Jon. So I used to resist this and think I should niche down as a speaker, but really, at my core, at my heart, I'm an eclectic speaker. I want to speak to more and more companies, to more and more organizations that serve people like me who experience different kinds of disabilities, to more and more schools and more associations. And if you're listening, you might be like, Jason, choose a lane already. Oh my gosh. But to me, it all works together because we learn different things from every person we meet. And I learn different things from every audience I speak to. And if the audience is a different, like, why can't a junior high 7th grade class have wisdom to share with a corporate ballroom? And I would love to be I love to be the bridge between those two separate worlds and to share. Oh, I forgot one. I also love speaking at churches. My messages for all age, from kids to adults. I love bringing them together and helping them start to have a mutual conversation about doing the imperfect best, and to see that they can really talk to each other and value each other, and that everyone goes through struggles. So often, as wherever we are in life, it's tempting to put ourselves in a silo, but to get out of that silo is really a glorious thing.
It truly is. And I love that you brought that in because when you, when you are bold and brave enough to step out into the world and to put yourself out there and to be in that space, man, great things come. And it's just like we talked about earlier. I think our impact is greater than we can see, than it can be measured, because the reach is absolutely incredible. And there's just so much power that comes from you embracing your imperfect best. Wrapping this up, taking the risks and the necessary risks that you feel will put yourself in a place where you can experience the lessons. Just like Karen shared here in the comments, you can experience the pain. And it doesn't always have to be painful. Everyone says, "Oh man, I have to whip myself for recompense," right? Like I need to experience the pain. The journey doesn't have to be painful. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. And whatever it might be, whatever the journey might be, whether it's an emotional experience, a physical one, an intellectual one, a spiritual one, or more, you have the opportunity to put yourself in that siloed position, as Jason said, and to embrace the imperfect best and to put yourself out there and allow it to be recognized and allow it to to fall into the hands of those wayward friends and souls looking for the inspiration that they need to pick themselves up. And I absolutely love that and embrace that. And I love that you shared that you speak at churches too, which is really, really impressive and an opportunity. So I did want to share one more comment. I love that Karen is here in the audience and she's sharing her thoughts. She says, life is not a single lane road. We must explore multiple lanes
Oh my
and
God.
find our best path.
Oh my gosh, Ken. The comment of the hour. My gosh, that's amazing.
It reminds me too, quick side story, and then we'll wrap this up, is we have paved roads and road lines in our lanes here in the United States. Maybe not in North Dakota or South Dakota. They might just have one lane highways or whatever. But in the Philippines, there's a road and there are no lanes. There are no lines. You just got to stick your nose out there and drive. And by the way, if you're driving through the countryside, a lot of farmers will drape tarps out on the road and they will dry their crops in the middle of the road.
Wow.
So that they don't have to like do it on their property or whatever. And I guess the heat of the road dries them faster, and that's how they make rice. And all of a sudden you're limited on all your space. So I just laugh because this is such a perfect example of there's no real lane in any of the roads that you're facing. In fact, I love this comment because what Karen is saying and what I hear her saying is that you've got to explore every aspect of the lane, of the road, of the journey. And Jason, I'm very inspired by your words today. So thank you for everything you've shared. And how obviously I want to send my listeners to purchase your book and to grab a copy. Where is the best place to do that? And what do you recommend? And how can they get a hold of you or reach you or learn more about you, subscribe to you, follow, and all of the above?
The best place for all of that, Jon, is to go to jasonwfreeman.com. And yes, I just gave you a website, but the guy I work with, Chris Taylor's a brilliant graphic artist, and he's made it into so much more than just a website. It's an experience of what I offer without hearing my voice all the times. Sorry, but there's some videos on the website, so you'll hear it sometimes. So head over to jasonwfreeman.com. I love to hear from you.
Amazing. And I'll put that in the show notes here. It's also down in the ticker below if you're watching the video or live. But we're so grateful to have had this conversation. And by we, I mean me. And I'm just grateful. Like this was the best way to start my Friday, to start my morning. If you're listening to this at any point in your life, whether it's you get it fresh when our episodes go live on Mondays, or if you're just stumbling upon the Circle of Knowledge podcast, I highly, highly recommend you learn more about what Jason is doing. You go grab a copy of his book, take action based on what he said, face your fears, look down the paths and the roads that you're currently trifled with, and realize that you have a choice and a decision to make, and your attitude reflects those choices. And there's just so much that can come from you learning from incredible speakers, mentors, and coaches like Jason. And Jason, I want to thank you again, friend to friend. I'm honored. I'm so excited about this conversation and this episode. And we'll lead off today by asking you one last question, which is, if you were to invite or challenge my listeners to take action or to do something based off of the message or the inspirations that they received today, what advice would you say to my audience? And what step of action or choice can they make today to start working towards embracing their imperfect best?
So I would say like once you get off listening to this great Circle of Knowledge podcast with with Jon who and Jon, you're just amazing. First of all, look more into Jon and what he offers because this man is doing great things and has great things to share. But then I invite you to just pay attention as you go through your day, and the next thing that happens that you perceive as a adversity or mistake, notice your typical response to it that you've probably had throughout life, and then just contemplate, what would it be like to do my imperfect best in this situation?
Oh man, I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jason Freeman. Please take his challenge, his invitation, and his encouragement and take immediate action based off the information, the stories, and the inspiration you may have received today in today's episode. Jason, thank you again for your time. This has been an awesome interview on the Circle of Knowledge podcast, and I can't wait till this airs. I'm looking forward to the comments, the feedback, and so many other things. And likewise, if you guys want to connect with Jason, please do so. Connect with him. Follow him on social media. Go to his website, jasonwfreeman.com. Grab a copy of his book. Learn more about him. Watch those awesome videos and learn more about his podcast. He's got a great show. He interviews incredible people each week. And I love the conversations and the information that come from it. With that being said, Jason, thank you. We love you. We're so excited. And we're definitely going to have to do a part 2 because I could talk to you forever, man. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, my friend.
Oh, likewise. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time. And remember that everything you need is already within you. All you need to do is take one step of action towards that which you feel you can do. And that perspective will give you everything you need. And we look forward to seeing that progress as you report it to us and let us know and share on social media and everywhere throughout the world. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks again. This was the Circle of Knowledge podcast.